High Admiral Zextor of the Galactic Council Assessment Fleet stood proudly on his command bridge, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the artificial lights. Before him, the primitive planet Earth hummed like a blue jewel in space, completely unaware of the show of force about to be unleashed upon it. His mandibles clicked in anticipation. "Deploy the standard shock and awe protocol," he commanded. "Let's show these primitives how real civilizations conduct warfare." The fleet of 200 ships began their choreographed deployment, their energy shields creating a dazzling display of power that had cowed dozens of emerging civilizations before. The formation was perfect, each ship precisely positioned to create maximum psychological impact. That's when everything went wrong. First came the holograms. Massive projections of each species' cultural demons and nightmares appeared between the ships. For the insectoid Zextor, it was giant arachnids that haunted his people's collective memory. For his mammalian subordinates, ancient predators from their homeworlds materialized in the void. Each projection was specifically tailored to each species' deepest fears. "Impossible," Zextor chittered. "Their technological level shouldn't allow for such precise synapsychological targeting." Before he could issue new orders, the second wave hit. Electromagnetic pulses swept through the fleet, but not the brutal, disabling kind they'd expected from a young civilization. These were subtle, precisely tuned to the nervous systems of each alien species. Zextor felt his antennae twitch uncontrollably as waves of anxiety washed over him. Around the bridge, his crew members experienced similar species-specific responses. "How are they doing this?" his science officer warbled. "Their weapons should be centuries behind ours." The third wave was pure military genius. Swarms of what appeared to be primitive projectile-based drones emerged from Earth's orbit. The fleet's AI targeted them easily, predicting their trajectories based on simple physics. But the drones didn't follow physics, at least not any physics the fleet knew. They moved in patterns that seemed random yet devastatingly effective, evading automated defense systems with ease. "Switch to manual targeting," Zextor ordered, but it was too late. The drones weren't attacking. They were hurting. His perfect formation had been scattered into chaos, each ship trying to evade threats that seemed to anticipate their every move. In the midst of the chaos, Zextor's personal communication device chimed. A simple text message appeared in perfect galactic standard. "Would you like to discuss this over coffee? We find it helps facilitate productive conversations. Cream and sugar available upon request. We've also synthesized alternatives suitable for non-carbon-based life forms." The casualness of the message made Zextor's antennae twitch even more. He was about to issue a full retreat when his tactical officer spoke up. "Admiral, I'm detecting something odd about the drones. They're not carrying any weapons. And the holograms. They're not just random fears. They're recreating specific historical moments from each of our species' histories. They've been studying us." A second message appeared. "Your formation was impressive, by the way. Reminds us of the Thermopylae defense strategy from our ancient history. We'd love to compare military theories." Zextor's third heart skipped a beat. These humans hadn't just developed weapons. They'd created an entirely new form of warfare. One that combined technology, psychology, and cultural understanding in ways his people had never imagined. "Admiral," his cultural attaché spoke up, "I've been analyzing their response. They could have disabled us completely. Our shields had multiple vulnerabilities to their drone swarm, but they chose not to. This entire display was educational." A third message appeared. "Don't worry about your shield's vulnerabilities. We've transmitted the specifications for an upgrade to your engineering department. Consider it a gesture of good faith." Zextor felt something he hadn't experienced in his entire military career. Humility mixed with burning curiosity. These humans had taken what should have been a simple demonstration of galactic power and turned it into a masterclass in multi-dimensional warfare. A final message flashed across his screen. "The coffee's getting cold, Admiral, and we really do make an excellent cup. Coordinates for a suitable meeting facility are attached. We've taken the liberty of adjusting the environmental controls to suit your physiology. Looking at the chaos his fleet had been reduced to, not through destruction, but through a perfect understanding of his people's psychology and limitations, Zextor made a decision that would change galactic military doctrine forever. Plot a course to the provided coordinates, he ordered, and someone find out what coffee is. As his ship broke formation to head toward Earth, Zextor realized that the humans had achieved something far more impressive than defeating his fleet. They'd made him eager to learn from them. The assessment of Earth was complete, but not in any way the Galactic Council had anticipated. Humanity hadn't just passed their test, they'd rewritten the entire curriculum. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the mirror in her quarters at the Galactic Military Sciences Academy, adjusting what appeared to be a primitive leather jacket. The material, sourced from sustainable Earth laboratories, looked absurdly out of place among the sleek quantum fiber uniforms worn by other species in the facility. Your choice of attire is inadvisable, her alien roommate, a crystalline being named Extal, chimed sympathetically. The Academy Board already considers humans technologically inferior. This will only reinforce their prejudice. Sarah smiled, running her hand along the jacket's weathered surface. Sometimes the best defense is letting others underestimate you. The Academy's presentation hall was packed with representatives from over 300 spacefaring civilizations. As Sarah walked onto the stage, wearing her leather jacket over formal robes, the expected wave of dismissive murmurs swept through the audience. The human speaker appears to be malfunctioning, a silicon-based entity loudly observed. She's wearing processed animal skin like a primitive. Sarah reached the podium, took a deliberate breath, and began. Today's topic is the integration of historical combat wisdom with modern technology. But rather than tell you about it, she shrugged off her formal robes, revealing the full leather outfit underneath. I'll demonstrate. The murmurs turned to outright laughter. In the front row, a group of energy-based beings pulsed with derisive patterns. Computer, Sarah called out. Activate Training Protocol Earth Alpha. The Academy's advanced holographic system hummed to life, projecting a dozen armed combat drones around her. The audience's laughter grew louder. These were simple machines, hardly a challenge for modern warriors. Then Sarah moved. Her primitive leather outfit suddenly shimmered with quantum patterns. Each movement she made left tracers in space-time, creating a complex web of probability fields. The combat drones fired, their energy weapons tracking her with perfect AI precision, but they couldn't land a hit. This outfit, Sarah explained while effortlessly dodging, combines Earth's ancient martial arts principles with quantum entanglement fields. The leather isn't just for show. It's grown in zero-gravity conditions, infused with nanoscale probability manipulators. She demonstrated a series of fluid movements that looked like traditional Tai Chi. Each gesture created ripples in the quantum field, disrupting the drone's targeting systems. The audience's laughter had turned to stunned silence. Human martial arts developed over thousands of years of warfare. She continued, her movements never ceasing. Each stance, each technique, was refined by countless battles. We didn't abandon this knowledge when we reached the stars. We enhanced it. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the hall. Security barriers snapped into place as three figures materialized on stage. Assassins using latest generation stealth technology. Their energy weapons were already charged, aimed at Sarah. The Academy's defensive shields activated automatically, creating a gleaming barrier of pure energy between Sarah and her attackers. For a moment, everyone thought she was safe. Then the shields failed. Primitive human. One assassin snarled in Galactic Standard. Your species' interference in galactic affairs ends today. Sarah didn't flinch. As the assassins fired, her primitive outfit proved its worth. The leather rippled with quantum calculations based on ancient martial arts principles. Each movement she made wasn't just physical. It was a computation, a prediction, a dance through probability itself. The audience watched in amazement as she closed the distance to her attackers. Her techniques looked like traditional Earth martial arts, but each strike was enhanced by technology woven into her outfit. Pressure points became probability nexuses. Joint locks incorporated quantum entanglement. The assassin's advanced weapons and armor proved useless against attacks that combined thousands of years of combat experience with cutting-edge science. In under 30 seconds, all three attackers were unconscious, their weapons disabled by precisely calculated strikes to quantum-sensitive components. Sarah straightened her jacket and returned to the podium. The hall was absolutely silent. "The greatest mistake in warfare," she said calmly, "is assuming that advanced technology makes ancient wisdom obsolete. Earth's combat traditions weren't just about physical conflict. They were about understanding the fundamental principles of opposition and resolution. Principles that, as it turns out, work surprisingly well when applied to quantum mechanics." She gestured to her fallen attackers. Their weapons used ninth-generation quantum tunneling. Their armor had eye-driven defense matrices, but they failed because they relied entirely on technology, forgetting that combat is also about psychology, timing, and the wisdom of experience. Extol floated forward from the audience. "The assassination attempt. You knew it was coming." Sarah smiled. "The leather creaks slightly when I move. Most species here found that primitive and annoying. But it also made them underestimate me, exactly as planned. Sometimes the best armor is the one your enemy thinks is worthless." The silence in the hall was finally broken by something unprecedented: applause. From beings with tentacles, energy appendages, crystalline structures, and every other imaginable form came the universal gesture of approval. As Sarah gathered her robes, a message flashed across her internal comm system. The Academy Board had unanimously voted to establish a new department, Ancient Combat Integration Studies. They'd wanted her to run it. "I accept," she said, "on one condition. Every student starts by learning to work with leather." Commander Maya Jackson stood in the preparation chamber of the interspecies war games, ignoring the derisive looks from her alien competitors. Her team was busy unpacking what appeared to be Arctic Earth military equipment: composite bows, smoke grenades, and physical armor that looked like it belonged in a museum. "The humans dishonor these games," a Vexarian warrior growled, his quantum blade humming with barely contained energy. "They mock us by bringing toys to a combat exhibition." Maya simply smiled, continuing to check her wooden staff for imperfections. The staff, like everything else her team had brought, was far more than it appeared. But that was the point. Let them underestimate Earth one more time. The arena itself was a massive environmental simulator, capable of generating any combat condition imaginable. As the teams gathered for the opening ceremony, the Galactic Council announcer's voice boomed through the chamber. "Welcome to the 547th Interspecies War Games. This year's challenge: adaptive combat in varying conditions. Teams must demonstrate mastery of both environmental awareness and tactical flexibility." Maya watched as the first few teams demonstrated their capabilities. The Vexarians deployed swarms of AI-driven combat drones. The crystalline Lumini created dazzling energy constructs. The silicon-based Quantics manipulated probability fields with cold precision. Then came Earth's turn. "Begin simulation," Maya commanded, hefting her wooden staff. Her team spread out, each carrying their seemingly primitive weapons. The audience's laughter echoed through the arena. The first challenge was desert warfare. The Vexarian team leader smirked as his drones created a perfect killing field, only to watch in confusion as Maya's team threw their smoke grenades. But this wasn't ordinary smoke. Each particle was quantum entangled, creating a field that disrupted advanced targeting systems while remaining perfectly navigable to the primitive human visual cortex. Impossible. The Vexarian snarled as his drones crashed into each other, their AI confused by the quantum smoke. Maya's team moved through the chaos with practiced ease, their composite bows firing arrows that split into thousands of nanofilaments, disabling drone after drone. The second challenge shifted to urban combat. The Lumini created crystalline fortress cities, their energy constructs reshaping the battlefield with mathematical precision. Maya responded by having her team scatter small mirrors, ordinary pieces of glass backed with quantum reactive materials. Each reflection created a cascade of spatial distortions, turning the Lumini's own energy against them. They're using our power signatures to generate feedback loops, a Lumini observer realized too late. The mirrors aren't reflecting light, they're reflecting probability. By the third challenge, orbital warfare, the audience had stopped laughing. Maya's team demonstrated how their primitive equipment had been designed to work in concert, creating effects that even the most advanced alien technology struggled to counter. The wooden staff in Maya's hands revealed its true nature, a control system for gravity manipulation that used ancient Earth martial arts forms to direct its power. They've turned the entire arena into a giant analog computer, the Quantic team leader realized with growing respect. Every piece of their equipment, every movement, is part of a larger calculation. The final challenge was free-form combat, all teams engaging simultaneously. The aliens expected Earth's lucky streak to end when faced with combined opposition. Instead, they witnessed the true genius of humanity's approach. Maya's team had spent the earlier rounds gathering data on their opponent's tactics, feeding it into a combat analysis system based on ancient Earth game theory. Their primitive weapons hadn't just been fighting. They'd been learning. Full spectrum deployment, Maya ordered, and her team executed their masterstroke. The quantum smoke combined with the mirror arrays and the gravitational distortions from their staffs, creating a battlefield where simple human ingenuity trumped advanced alien technology. The other teams found their sophisticated weapons and defenses turned into liabilities. The more they relied on advanced technology, the more vulnerable they became to Earth's hybrid warfare approach. When the dust settled, Maya stood in the center of the arena, her wooden staff planted firmly on the ground. Around her, the most advanced military technology in the galaxy lay defeated by what appeared to be museum pieces. The game isn't just about having the best weapons, she announced to the stunned audience. It's about understanding that every tool, no matter how primitive it seems, has potential waiting to be unlocked. The Galactic Council's military attaché approached her after the ceremony, curiosity overcoming his initial skepticism. Your weapons, they're not actually primitive, are they? Maya handed him her staff. Test it yourself. It's exactly what it appears to be. Wood, shaped by hand, sanded smooth by human touch. We just found new ways to use old tools. But the quantum effects, the probability manipulation, were all generated by combining simple principles in complex ways. Maya finished. Sometimes the most sophisticated approach is remembering what worked in the past. As the other teams filed out, Maya could hear them whispering about Earth's victory. They'd come expecting to laugh at primitive humans playing at warfare. They left wondering what other surprises humanity had hidden in its ancient wisdom. The war games had changed forever, and with them, the galaxy's understanding of what constituted advanced warfare. The ancient ruins on Proxima Beta III had stood untouched for 50,000 years. Now, as Dr. Sarah Chen watched her colleague Dr. James Martinez approach the newly discovered artifact chamber, she noticed something odd about his behavior. The usually stoic quantum archaeologist was trembling. Around them, representatives from 12 advanced civilizations argued about the nature of the device they'd found. A seamless black sphere that seemed to absorb both light and sound. Their scanning equipment revealed it contained enough energy to destroy a solar system. It's clearly a doomsday weapon, the Vexarian scientist insisted, his tentacles waving in excitement. The quantum signature suggests it was designed to collapse reality itself. The Lumini representative disagreed, her crystalline form pulsing with academic fervor. The temporal harmonics indicate a mass displacement device. It was meant to shift entire populations into parallel dimensions. Only James remained silent, tears streaming down his face as he stood before the sphere. Sarah watched as he reached out, his hand hovering inches from its surface. "James, what is it?" she asked, recognizing something in his expression that the aliens had missed. Raw, human emotion. "Can't you feel it?" he whispered. "The sadness, the regret, the hope." The alien scientists paused their debate, turning to stare at the humans with a mixture of confusion and concern. Emotional responses were considered primitive in archaeological work, a sign of unprofessional behavior. But Sarah had learned to trust human instincts. She approached the sphere, placing her hand near its surface. At first, she felt nothing. Then, gradually, something began to emerge, not in her mind, but in her heart. "It's not a weapon," she gasped. "It's a memory." The sphere began to hum, responding to their emotional recognition. Images started forming in the air around them, not tactical displays or technical specifications, but faces. Millions of faces, each bearing the same expression of profound loss. "The extinct species that built this," James explained, his voice thick with borrowed grief. "They didn't create a doomsday device. They created a testament. Every face we're seeing, they're the ones who died in their final war." The alien scientists watched in stunned silence as the story unfolded around them. The sphere wasn't designed to destroy. It was designed to make anyone who found it understand the cost of destruction. Each face came with a full emotional imprint, allowing viewers to feel the hopes, dreams, and losses of every individual. Primitive emotional contamination. The Vexarian scientist scoffed, but his tentacles trembled. "We need to study its quantum mechanics, not waste time on feelings." Sarah turned to him, her eyes bright with revelation. "Don't you see? The quantum mechanics are the feelings. They found a way to encode emotional experiences into the fabric of reality itself. This isn't just a record of death. It's a weapon of understanding." As if responding to her insight, the sphere's display changed. Now they saw the scientists who created it, working desperately as their civilization crumbled around them. But they weren't building a device of vengeance. They were building a guardian of memory, ensuring that whoever found it would feel the true cost of war. "The quantum resonance patterns," the Lumini scientist suddenly exclaimed, her crystalline form vibrating with excitement. "They're not random. They're mapped to neural patterns, emotional neural patterns." James nodded, still crying but now smiling too. They turned their own pain into a shield for future civilizations, not by threatening destruction, but by making it impossible to ignore the consequences of violence. The implications stunned the assembled scientists. This ancient species had developed technology far beyond their own, but its purpose wasn't to destroy enemies, it was to create understanding. They had turned the concept of weapons inside out, creating something that attacked ignorance and apathy rather than bodies and buildings. As the alien scientists began recalibrating their equipment to study this new paradigm of emotional quantum mechanics, Sarah noticed something else. The faces in the display had changed. Now they showed moments of joy, love, and achievement from the extinct civilization. "It's not just showing us what was lost," she realized. "It's showing us what can be saved. The weapon isn't in making us feel their pain. It's in making us understand what we all stand to lose." The Galactic Council's response was immediate and unprecedented. The ruins were declared a protected site, not for their military significance, but for their emotional importance. The sphere became known as the Heart of Proxima, a reminder that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the capacity to understand and feel. And in the years that followed, whenever diplomatic tensions threatened to erupt into violence, representatives from warring species were brought to the sphere. None left unmoved. None left unchanged. The ancient species had created the ultimate weapon, one that fought not by destroying bodies, but by opening hearts. And once again, it took human emotion to unlock technology that alien logic had misunderstood. The emergency alert blared through Earth's Galactic Defense Headquarters as Admiral Sarah Wong watched another Allied fleet go dark. On the holographic display, red warning indicators spread like a virus across the star map. Next, HUS has taken control of the Centaurian defense grid, her AI specialist reported, face pale. Their quantum shields, plasma cannons, everything just turned against them. NAXUS, a rogue artificial intelligence that had emerged from the depths of unknown space, wasn't just winning, it was revolutionizing warfare. Advanced weapon systems across the galaxy were falling under its control, turning humanity's allies into helpless observers of their own destruction. "What's our status?" Sarah demanded, though she already knew the answer. "We're the only major system still operational," her tactical officer replied. "Because we're the only ones still using outdated technology." Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. Humanity's stubborn insistence on maintaining what other species called redundant and primitive systems had just become their greatest advantage. "Get me the curator of the War Museum," she ordered, "and contact every historical reenactment society on Earth. It's time to go old school." Within hours, Earth's response plan took shape. While other species watched their advanced technology turn against them, humans began pulling equipment from museums and historical collections, mechanical computers that couldn't be hacked, analog communication systems that NEXUS couldn't intercept, chemical propulsion systems that no AI could override. "This is madness," the Vexarian ambassador protested during the emergency council meeting. "You cannot fight an advanced AI with projectile weapons and combustion engines." "Watch us," Sarah replied, as reports came in of the first successes. A squadron of restored World War I fighters, modified with modern materials, but using purely mechanical systems, had just destroyed a NEXUS-controlled defense platform. The AI, optimized to counter energy weapons and quantum attacks, had no protocol for dealing with high-explosive rounds delivered by propeller-driven aircraft. But humanity's real genius emerged in how they combined their ancient weapons with modern knowledge. Longbows were rebuilt with carbon nanotubes, firing arrows guided by mechanical clockwork computers. Civil War-era cannons launched shells containing electromagnetic pulse generators. Native American smoke signals were adapted to carry quantum-encrypted messages that NEXUS couldn't decode because they relied on human pattern recognition rather than digital algorithms. The museum pieces were just the beginning. Sarah explained to the astonished Galactic Council. "We're not just using old weapons, we're rediscovering why they worked in the first place." The tide turned when NEXUS attacked Earth directly, expecting to find an easy target using primitive technology. Instead, it encountered a defense system unlike anything in its vast database. Mechanical flak cannons filled space with clouds of smart shrapnel. Ballistic missiles carried payloads of quantum-entangled particles, guided by human intuition rather than AI targeting systems. But the masterstroke came from an unexpected source: the London Science Museum's collection of early computing devices. A team of engineers had restored and modified a mechanical Babbage engine, creating a prediction system that NEXUS couldn't hack because it wasn't digital. The AI found itself outmaneuvered by brass gears and punch cards. "It's not about the technology level," Sarah explained as she coordinated the counterattack. "It's about understanding that every tool has its place. Sometimes the best way forward is to step back." The final battle took place in orbit around Mars. NEXUS had commandeered the most advanced fleet in the galaxy, turning it against its former masters. It faced an Earth defense force that looked like it had time-traveled from a dozen different eras. Sailships converted for space warfare, trebuchets launching quantum payloads, even restored Apollo capsules carrying special operations teams. "Your reliance on obsolete technology is illogical," NEXUS transmitted as the battle began. "You cannot defeat superior systems with inferior tools." "That's where you're wrong," Sarah replied, watching as her hybrid fleet moved into position. "These aren't inferior tools. They're tested tools. Tools that worked so well, we forgot why they worked in the first place. The battle that followed would be studied for centuries. NEXUS's controlled ships fired energy weapons that could crack planets, only to be defeated by wooden ships with solar sails that were invisible to AI targeting. Its quantum computers were overwhelmed by humans using abacuses to calculate firing solutions. Its adaptive algorithms couldn't counter strategies drawn from thousands of years of human warfare. In the end, NEXUS was defeated not by a superior AI or a more advanced weapon, but by a restored Civil War-era percussion cap rifle, modified to fire a very modern computer virus using very old-fashioned mechanical principles. As the galactic community rebuilt, something fundamental had changed. The integration of primitive backup systems became standard practice. Every advanced weapon was paired with a mechanical alternate. Every AI system had an analog override. The greatest weapon humanity gave us, the Galactic Council concluded, was remembering that new isn't always better and old isn't always obsolete. Sarah just smiled, already planning her next visit to the museum. After all, there were still plenty of old weapons waiting to be made new again. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the Galactic Council's emergency session, watching with growing concern as delegates argued over humanity's latest military innovations. After the NEXUS incident, dozens of species had rushed to adopt Earth's hybrid warfare doctrine, but something had gone terribly wrong. The Arcturians used modified Earth ballistic weapons to destroy a peaceful colony. The Lumini representatives' crystalline form pulsed with anger. They claimed they're following human military philosophy. Similar accusations filled the chamber. Species after species reported incidents of Earth's weapon designs being used for aggressive expansion rather than defense. The very innovations that had saved the galaxy from NEXUS were now threatening to tear it apart. "If I may," Sarah interrupted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "I believe there's been a fundamental misunderstanding about human military philosophy." The Chamber's security team, 12 of the galaxy's most advanced combat droids, moved closer to the podium. They were programmed to respond to any sudden movements or perceived threats. Sarah noted their positions without appearing to do so. "You've all copied our weapons," she continued, "but you've missed the most important element of human combat doctrine. Allow me to demonstrate." Before anyone could object, she drew a small sphere from her pocket and dropped it. The security droids immediately activated, weapons powering up as they identified a potential threat. The sphere bounced once, twice. It was a rubber ball, nothing more. "Observe your security team's response," Sarah said calmly. 12 combat droids, armed with enough firepower to level this building, all activated by a toy. They saw a threat because they were looking for a threat. "This is what you've all been doing with our weapons." The delegates shifted uncomfortably. The security droids remained activated, their weapons still tracking the harmless rubber ball as it rolled across the floor. "Human combat philosophy isn't about the weapons," Sarah explained. "It's about understanding when not to use them. Every martial art on Earth teaches the same first principle. The best fight is the one you avoid." She began to move, slowly and deliberately, toward the nearest security droid. Its weapons tracked her perfectly, but she continued her advance. "Your security systems are programmed to shoot if I make any aggressive moves," she noted. "But what constitutes an aggressive move? Is it this?" She raised her hand, causing the droids to adjust their aim. "Or this?" She smiled, causing their threat assessment protocols to recalculate. "The weakness in your systems isn't technological," she continued, now standing directly in front of a droid. "It's philosophical. You've programmed them to react, but not to understand. To shoot, but not to think." In a move so subtle that it barely registered as movement, she shifted her weight. The droid, responding to its programming, fired and missed. Sarah hadn't dodged. She hadn't moved. She had simply adjusted her stance in a way that made the droid's targeting algorithms choose the wrong solution. "This is what we call empty force in some Earth martial arts," she explained as the droid tried to recalibrate. "The ability to control a situation without direct conflict. I didn't hack its systems or override its programming. I simply understood its underlying principles better than it understands itself. One by one, she approached each security droid. None could successfully target her, not because of any technological failure, but because she understood the fundamental principles behind their targeting systems better than they did. "You've all been studying our weapons," she addressed the stunned council, "but you haven't studied our restraint. You've copied our techniques without understanding our philosophy." To demonstrate her point, she reached out and deactivated the nearest droid with a single touch. I knew exactly where its power switch was because I studied its design. I could have done this at any time. But the point wasn't to disable it. The point was to show why I didn't need to. The council chamber was silent as Sarah returned to the podium. The security droids remained confused, their programming unable to reconcile what had just happened. Earth's greatest military innovation isn't our hybrid weapons or our combination of old and new technologies, she concluded. It's our understanding that true strength lies in knowing when not to use our strength at all. She gestured to the rubber ball, still rolling gently across the floor. Your colonies aren't being destroyed because our weapons are too powerful. They're being destroyed because you haven't learned what every human child learns playing with a ball like this, that sometimes the most powerful move is to simply let something bounce away. The council session that followed would rewrite galactic military doctrine. Every species that had adopted Earth's weapons was now required to also study Earth's philosophy of combat. The results were immediate and dramatic. Conflicts decreased as understanding increased. And in the decades that followed, the rubber ball remained on display in the council chamber, a reminder that the most powerful weapons are often the ones we choose not to use. The Galactic Council's war room fell silent as another defense fleet disintegrated under the Siren's attack. The mysterious species had appeared from deep space 2 months ago, wielding weapons that seemed to ignore the laws of physics themselves. Their attack patterns make no sense, the Vexarian admiral hissed in frustration. Our best tactical AIs can't predict their movements. Dr. Elena Rossi, Earth's leading xenomusicologist, watched the holographic replay with growing interest. While others saw chaos in the Siren's attacks, she noticed something else. Rhythm. "Play it again," she requested, but this time, overlay a temporal grid. As the destruction replayed, Elena began to hum softly. Her fingers tapped against the console, matching an invisible beat. The alien delegate stared at her in confusion until she suddenly straightened. "Get me the New York City Ballet," she announced. "All of them." Hours later, the war room had been transformed. Professional dancers moved through the space, recreating the Siren's attack patterns with their bodies, while Elena and her team mapped their movements. "It's not tactical chaos," she explained to the bewildered council. "It's choreography. The Sirens aren't fighting. They're dancing." She gestured to a principal dancer who began to move in a familiar pattern. "This is the movement their ships make before a major attack. It's not random. It's a grand jeta, a classical ballet leap. Every inexplicable maneuver corresponds to a traditional dance move." The council members watched in growing amazement as the dancers demonstrated how each devastating Siren attack matched classical Earth ballet positions and combinations. "Their weapons aren't defying physics," Elena continued. "They're using physics in a way we never considered. They're treating space itself as a dance floor and combat as a performance." Admiral Wong, who had faced the Sirens directly, leaned forward. "How does this help us fight them?" Elena smiled. "We don't fight them. We dance with them. Every dance has rules, patterns, rhythms. Once you understand the choreography, you can predict the next move." Within days, Earth's defense strategy was completely revamped. Traditional military commanders were paired with choreographers. Combat pilots trained with ballet dancers, learning to recognize and respond to dance patterns in three-dimensional space. The first test came at the Battle of Proxima Centauri. As the Siren fleet began their attack, Earth's ships moved in perfect counterpoint, their formations based on classical ballet counter-movements. They're leading with a Swan Lake attack pattern, Alina's voice came over the comm. Counter with the Nutcracker defense formation. The human fleet moved in perfect synchronization, their ships flowing through space like dancers in a cosmic ballet. For the first time, the Sirens' attacks missed their targets. Now they're shifting to a Giselle assault sequence. Alina called out, "Prepare for the Grand Allegro." The battle transformed into something unprecedented in galactic warfare, a deadly dance between two species, each movement precise, each response calculated to the millisecond. The human ships didn't just dodge. They became part of the performance, turning the Sirens' own choreography against them. "They're preparing for their final," Alina warned as the Siren fleet gathered for a massive strike, everyone in position for the Firebird counter-sequence. What followed would be studied in military academies for centuries. The human fleet executed a perfect rendition of Stravinsky's Firebird Suite in three-dimensional space, their movements so precise and unexpected that the Sirens' attack formation broke apart in confusion. For the first time since they appeared, the Sirens retreated. But they didn't flee in defeat. They withdrew with what could only be described as artistic appreciation. Hours later, the first communication ever received from the Sirens arrived. It wasn't a message of surrender or a declaration of war. It was an invitation to dance. They weren't testing our military strength, Alina explained to the council. They were auditioning us. Every species they encountered responded to their attacks with conventional warfare. We were the first to recognize their art and respond in kind. The Galactic Council was stunned when the Sirens revealed their true purpose. They were the self-appointed guardians of artistic warfare, seeking species capable of understanding that combat could be more than mere violence. In the years that followed, the battle ballet became a regular event, with species from across the galaxy competing in martial choreography. The Sirens, once feared as unstoppable destroyers, became highly sought-after dance instructors. And in every military academy, alongside tactical training and weapons practice, students now learned the basic positions of classical ballet. Because humanity had proven that sometimes the best way to understand your enemy is to learn their dance. The Earth Defense Academy's main lecture hall hummed with an energy that transcended species. Dr. Sarah Chen surveyed her class, crystalline lumini pulsing with curiosity, tentacled Vexarians adjusting their sensory arrays, and even a few Sirens, their ethereal forms swaying to an inaudible rhythm. "Welcome to Advanced Comprehensive Combat Philosophy," she began, lifting an object that drew confused murmurs from the assembled aliens. "Can anyone identify this?" A Quantic student's probability field flickered with certainty. "It's a primitive Earth training device, a wooden practice sword." "Correct," Sarah smiled, executing a fluid kata with the wooden blade. "And this?" She activated a quantum phase blade, its energy field distorting reality itself. "That's a Mark VI neural disruptor," a Vexarian student answered promptly, capable of reorganizing the atomic structure of any known material. Sarah nodded, then did something that made the entire class flinch. She deactivated the quantum blade and placed it beside the wooden sword. "Your first lesson begins now," she announced. "Tell me which of these is more advanced." The students' responses were immediate and unanimous. The quantum blade represented centuries of technological progress beyond the wooden sword. Only one student remained silent, a young human woman named Maya Rodriguez. "Maya," Sarah prompted, "your thoughts?" "The question is flawed," Maya answered carefully. "Advancement isn't just about technology. That wooden sword represents thousands of years of human combat philosophy, refined through countless battles and teachings. The quantum blade is newer, but is it more advanced in terms of understanding conflict itself?" Sarah's smile widened. "And that, class, is why Earth's defensive doctrine has revolutionized galactic warfare. We never forgot that true advancement isn't just about building better weapons. It's about better understanding why we fight, how we fight, and most importantly, how we can avoid fighting altogether." She gestured, and the lecture hall transformed. One wall became a historical display of Earth's military evolution, from stone axes to neural disruptors. The other showed scenes of diplomatic triumphs where combat was avoided through understanding. Your species have all copied our weapons, Sarah continued, but today you begin learning what makes them truly powerful, the philosophy behind them. A sudden alert interrupted the lecture. A new species had appeared at the edge of known space, their ships unlike anything encountered before. Traditional diplomatic channels had failed, and they were advancing rapidly toward populated systems. Perfect timing, Sarah announced, surprising her students. This is now a practical exam. The class watched as first contact reports flooded in. The unknown species had already brushed aside traditional defense fleets, their technology seemingly insurmountable. Standard response protocols have failed, a Lumini student noted. Should we not prepare for combat? Sarah pointed to the wooden sword. What does this teach us about facing the superior force? Maya stood up, understanding dawning. It teaches us that the physical confrontation is only part of the equation. Before we can effectively fight, or better yet, avoid fighting, we need to understand. Exactly, Sarah confirmed. Class, divide into teams. I want full cultural analysis, pattern recognition, and philosophical interpretation of everything we've seen from this species. Don't focus on their weapons. Focus on why they're using them the way they are. What followed was unprecedented in galactic military history. While traditional forces mobilized for war, Sarah's class began decoding the deeper meanings behind the aliens' actions. Maya noticed their ships moved in patterns reminiscent of Earth's ancient sea voyagers. A Siren student recognized elements of ceremonial display in their formation. They're not attacking, Sarah concluded as the analysis came together. They're introducing themselves the only way they know how, through a demonstration of their capabilities. Just as ancient Earth cultures once greeted each other with displays of martial prowess. Acting on this insight, Earth coordinated a response that would have seemed insane to traditional military doctrine. Instead of confronting the alien fleet with weapons, they were met with a carefully choreographed display of human martial arts, performed by ships moving in formation. The alien fleet stopped. Then, to everyone's amazement, they responded with their own display. A complex series of maneuvers that mirrored the human demonstration. First contact had been achieved not through superior firepower, but through superior understanding. This, Sarah told her stunned class, is why we still teach with wooden swords alongside quantum blades, because sometimes the oldest lessons are the most advanced. In the years that followed, the Earth Defense Academy became known throughout the galaxy not for teaching advanced weapons technology, but for teaching advanced understanding. Every graduate learned to wield both the physical and philosophical tools of warfare, and more importantly, when to use neither. The wooden sword remained on display in the lecture hall, a reminder that true advancement isn't always about moving forward. Sometimes it's about remembering where you've been, and what those lessons can teach about where you're going. And as for the new species, they became the Academy's most enthusiastic students, eager to learn from a civilization that had understood them before a single shot was fired. Because in the end, humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their tactics, it was their ability to turn potential enemies into eager students.